Luke chapter 23, 13 through 25. Then Pilate, when he had called together the chief priests and rulers and the people, said to them, "You have brought this man to me as one who misleads the people. And indeed, having examined him in your presence, I found no fault in this man concerning those things of which you accused him." And Pilate is referring to Jesus. "No, neither did Herod, for I sent you back to him. And indeed, nothing deserving of death has been done by him. I will therefore chastise him and release him, for it was necessary for him to release one to them at the feast." And they all cried at once, saying, "Away with this man, and release to us Barabbas, who had been thrown into prison for a certain rebellion made in the city, and for murder." Pilate, therefore, wishing to release Jesus, again called out to them, but they shouted, saying, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Then he said to them the third time, "Why? What evil has he done? I have found no reason for death in him. I will therefore chastise him and let him go." But they were insistent, demanding with loud voices that he be crucified. And the voices of these men and of the chief priests prevailed. So Pilate gave sentence that it should be as they requested. And he released to them the one they requested, who for rebellion and murder had been thrown into prison. But he delivered Jesus to their will. I'm going to hold up there real quick. In verses 15 through 23, Pilate attempted to pardon Jesus 3 times. 3 times, the men that were there and the high priest called for his crucifixion. 3 times, Peter denied Christ after he was arrested. The Israelites and the leaders there, they chose a rebellious man that was a murderer instead over Jesus. And hang in there, sorry. When I look at my life and the things that I've done, and even the choices up to today, every day, it's a struggle. I can be put in that same position. If I was there, I would hope that I wouldn't say crucify Jesus. I hope that I would say don't, because he's the Son of God. But I know better, because I have done things in my life that, I wish I could change. But each and every day when you see something, and then you stare too long at it, you're like, what am I doing with that? Am I choosing a rebellious and a murderous heart over the Son of God? And just this thought's just been going through my head. What am I doing in my daily life that's actually edifying God? I hope that reading this and putting it in my heart, that it helps me to choose God instead of this world. Because the world's out there, and it's a struggle sometimes. You're trying to do what's right, but the devil's still out there like a roaring lion, seeking who he can devour. And I don't want to be devoured. I want to choose Jesus. So, and moving on, Luke 23, same chapter. We're going to go read verses 32 through 34. There were also 2 other criminals led with him to be put to death. And when they had come to the place called Calvary, there they crucified him, and the criminals, one on the right hand and the other on the left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." And they divided his garments and cast lots. And the people stood looking on. But even the rulers with them sneered, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself, if he is the Christ, the chosen of God." And verses 39 through 43, then I'm going to talk a little bit. Then one of the criminals who were hanged blasphemed by him, saying, "If you are the Christ, save yourself and us." But the other answering rebuked him, saying, "Do you not even fear God, seeing you are under the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said to Jesus, "Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus said to him, "Assuredly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." And we're going to hold up right there. The number 3 has significance, definitely in the Bible, and I don't know all the meanings or what it really means or all the secrets to it, but there were three crosses. There were 3 men on the cross. One chose to reject Jesus and blaspheme him. The other knew that he was guilty, and yet asked Jesus to remember me when you come to your kingdom. And Jesus said, "Surely I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." And that speaks volumes to me, that even a man that is sentenced to death, that if they deny themselves and admit that they aren't good enough, that Jesus is dying for them. And of course, this man weren't there for the resurrection, but he believed in Jesus, and he said he'd be with him in paradise. So it's being a Christian is definitely, people sometimes look at you funny because you've got a different skip in your stride, and they don't understand why some things don't upset you. I guess because we know how our life is going to end up. You know, when we pass from this life, we're going to be with Jesus in paradise. And that's just reassurance. Even though, when, like I said earlier, if you don't have anything to overcome, then you'll overcome nothing. Well, God puts things in our lives, struggles and pains and heartaches, because He uses that to work a great work in us for His glory. And it's not easy. We've all been through it, and we're all going to go through it some more until we're after this life in heaven. Yes, brother.
You know, when we go to the prison, you know how it is a lot of times. We'll get out of 25 or 30, we'll get maybe 6, 7, 8, 10. Just sitting there listening. They are like the one who said, you know, surely. The rest of them that are giving us all this hard time, you know, we're hollering, yelling, screaming, trying to disrupt things. If you ask them why they're there, every one of them would probably tell you that they were falsely accused.
Exactly.
The ones that are listening to us will probably say, well, I did what they said I did.
Exactly.
It's the same way.
Exactly. That's right. This was actually this is a longer version of what I was planning for the next time we go to the detention center. But
I'll go with you.
awesome. I've got a little bit more reading, and these verses just kind of tie things in, and they make it seem to fit more smoothly to me. So, and if you want to turn, that's